It's so cold.
Cut!
Shut up. Hey there, everybody. Today we're going to be installing this sign in the middle of a rainstorm. Join us as I show you one of the simplest signs to get started with on your CNC Plasma journey. Let's do it. Alrighty, let's jump right into this one. For this project, I'm going to show the entire cut process, so if you don't want to see that, skip ahead about a minute. Here we're doing a dry run just to make sure this sign will fit on this sheet, and I have the sheet squared up on the table right, just because it's a pretty tight tolerance. I only had about an inch to split between all the joints here. Jump into the first operation, which is cutting with an outside cut the counters or insides of the text in the sign. Counters is the technical term there, and it's a good thing to know if you're actually trying to Google stuff or whatever, that's the word you're looking for. So we'll jump right into the text. You can see it's not too complicated. This was a nice font to work with. It cut easy and had good tolerances. If you guys want to see some of what's going on day to day in the shop, follow on Instagram. You'll see stuff before it makes it to YouTube and some stuff that never makes it to YouTube. But here we go. We got the entire cut, a little under 16 minutes, and we're good to go. And like every project, we're here in grinding. Let's use a wire cup to first clean up any dross on the edge of the sheets, and then I'll jump over to a actual flap disc, but the wire cup's gonna do 90% of the work if you have your machine dialed in right and you're getting good clean cuts, everything's level, and you have your settings right on your machine. This is 16 gauge, so I was running about 160 inches a minute and about 40 amps. Generally where I run on this. So flap disc, go after it, clean it all up, spend the time here. You can see one spot where the machine jogged over one step, so I'm just going to clean that up with a flap disc. This is about 40 grit. If it had been much more of a cut, I probably would have recut the sheet, but for one little spot, that's easy to fix, and by the time you buzz the top surface with the flap disc, it's gone. Now run over everything with your hand. Take your glove off and make sure you don't have dross, because that's really going to show up when you go into powder coating. Now, for any little detail work, anywhere where your machine didn't get a perfect cut or you have some dross, I just jump over to the die grinder. I finally caved in and bought 3 of them. Actually, I think I have 4, so that I don't have to change out bits. You see I got a burr there, and then these Rolock style sanding discs. These are actually an Ingersoll Rand product that was a gift from a family member. So yeah, let's try them out, just clean everything up. I think it was like 3 letters on this sign that I needed to touch up, and mostly it's just where a curve wasn't perfect. Sometimes that's from the file, sometimes it's from the machine cutting wrong. Now the frame is going to be 1-inch square tube in this case, because we're matching another sign. Normally I'd step down maybe to 3/4. 1 inch is fine too, just depends on the look you're going for. This is 11 gauge wall, so about 1/8 of an inch. 14 gauge is plenty fine for a sign like this, but I had this on hand. Now to join the sign and make our corners, I'm going to use notched ends instead of miters, just because I find that more convenient. So you take a piece, scribe a line, and then just get your grinder out and cut those notches, and lay everything out on the table, and those notches kind of make everything square up real easy. I am actually squaring to the sign instead of using a square, so that if this sign was some fraction of a degree out of square, the frame would match it. Now these back pieces are not really necessary. I like them in there, keeps this frame totally square, gives you a little bit more meat. Something to attach gussets to later on. And you'll notice as I'm doing this that I'm keeping the sign faces face down on the table whenever I'm going to be welding, and that's just so that any BBs that stick to them are going to stick to the back. I can knock them off and don't have to worry about having any grinder marks on the face of the sign. So this upgrade here for a sign is really not that complicated when you compare it to just doing flat work. You know, you get to use a little bit thinner metal. If I was just doing a flat sign like this, I'd want to use at least 14 gauge or probably even 12. You know, with a frame on it, I'm using 16 gauge to save on some weight. The money difference is only about $10 or $20 in that sheet. Now these little triangles are gusset plates, and I'm knocking the edge off just so they'll fit around the welds. And we'll put one in basically at every joint, so we have 8 of them in the sign. And they're not really adding any rigidity, they're there for us to run screws through to attach the frame to the building when we finally go to install. So with the sign face laid down and attached with clamps to the frame, and start drilling holes. Piece of shit drill bit. And this is a little trick to get out a broken drill bit. Just put a vice grip on it and twist. I realized here that the problem I'm having is I'm actually drilling right into the end of that notched piece, which is why I kept breaking drill bits. So when I stepped up to something bigger, it was able to just tear that hole right through. Sometimes you just kind of need a beer in the middle of the day. So we'll open up all those holes, make them run all the way through the sign frame. I think I was using 5/16 holes here because I'm going to use 1/4 inch hardware to hold everything together, and you want a little bit of play. There we go. Drop the bolts into place, put a nut on the back of them to hold them in place, and then you'd weld that nut to the frame after tightening everything up. Pew pew, electricity, weldy, weldy. Don't forget to include footage next time. That is, of course, if you remembered to film that part. Now for an added touch, we're gonna buzz off the marks on the top of the bolt heads just so they look a little cleaner. I always like to make 1 or 2 extra as well so that I can take those to the powder coater and have an extra one in case we lose a bolt or scratch one or whatever. Now, when you're done with your build, take the time to go over every surface with a rag. Make sure you don't have any BBs on there because they just blow up in powder coating. They show up and are really obnoxious. Bolt the sign together, get it ready for the powder coater, and we'll go to dealing with some of the little detail work now. Oh, man. There it is, the magnetic chuck. These things are not cheap. This one ran me close to 300 bucks. I think they're on Amazon right now for around 220. And you know, it's an investment, but man, it saves so much time holding all those little pieces. Those again are the counters. They're going to be inside of all the letters, and we'll attach them to the sign with some VHB double-sided tape. But for powder coating, we need a method to hang them that's conductive. So I run out a little weld wire and stick it down. Powder coater can use that. I've actually come up with a better option after this on the next project, and I'll be following up with a video on that pretty soon. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and hit subscribe, and you'll get notified when that comes out. This square here is just a sample piece that every time I do a new color with the powder coater, I run a sample too, so I can have a little sample wall and show those off to customers in the future. Let them actually hold something bigger than a little sample chiplet. And the downsides to having a Jeep, but whatever, we're good. So here we are, signs back from powder coater. We're at install. I'm gonna throw some of this scaffolding together, and Tommy is a godsend here because he fits into all those little spaces that I don't. But it's all our tools we need. You just need a drill, a hammer drill, or an SDS in my case, and an impact driver. The frame goes up on the wall, and those gusset plates we do not drill ahead of time, so that when we go to install, we can make sure we're not lining up with a mortar joint. You know, we're actually going into a nice piece of stone. And there we go. Drill out the holes, try not to hit the brick with a regular drill, then SDS, then impact driver with some Tapcons, and this thing ain't ever coming off the wall. 8 Tapcons is, you know, probably holding my Jeep up. When we put up the background piece, Tommy and I are going to put a bolt only in the outside 2 top holes. And then the front piece, we can put bolts in the inside 2 top holes so that that white background piece is held in place while we do the install. We're not trying to wrestle 2 pieces at once. Then you just remove the bolt that was holding the white one in, back it out, put it through the green piece, add all the rest of them, and tighten them up. Be real gentle here though, because you don't want to scratch your powder coat. Now this is for my wife, just because she's afraid of heights. Ooh, there you go. So, jump down off the scaffolding. We do have outriggers on this, so it's real stable. The counters go on with some VHB tape, and because it was raining, Tommy's there with an umbrella and a roll of paper towels drying the sign off, as I stick the pieces on with the VHB tape. That tape's got a little bit of water tolerance. I don't know how much, but you know, you can see what we're doing here. We're doing a pretty good job of drying them off, but I'm not claiming it's perfect. And we did this install about a week ago, and nothing has fallen off, so they're gonna stay attached. Now for these floppy pieces in this F part of the logo, we're gonna use some more VHB tape, and then we're done. Let the customer check everything out, make sure they're happy while you still have your equipment there, and then you're done. This is a great step up to your sign business, and I hope you guys got something from it. Thanks. Alright y'all, thanks for watching. If you were paying close attention, you would have noticed that throughout this entire build, Tommy and I were using THISS batteries. They're an aftermarket battery system for the DeWalt 20-volt platform, and I'm going to do a little comparison of them and genuine DeWalt batteries. These are rated at 4 amp hours at 20 volts. We are going to put them on the DeWalt DCB 1800 inverter generator charger thing and run a heater off them. I'm also going to be using an electric meter to measure the actual output of these, so we're not just comparing rough times. And let's go for it. So I've said in the past, I tend to lean towards genuine on batteries, but THISS batteries actually impressed me. You can see that the DeWalts are putting out a little bit more amperage. The kilowatt hours are going up faster on the DeWalt side, but it's not by much, and the THISS lasted for quite a while. So as you can see, the THISS batteries kept up with the DeWalts. These DeWalts do have a little bit of mileage on them, but generally they still perform pretty well even after some use. So if you guys want to check them out, there'll be a link down in the description. Thanks. And a discount code.